The stars had forgotten us. Our fleet was buried, silent, until one message cut through the void. A simple transmission, a call for help. And in that moment, humanity woke up. The Deathworlders rose. The Forgotten Covenant, the research. Vessel Stellar Dawn drifted peacefully through the Andara Nebula, its white and silver hull gleaming against the colorful cosmic dust clouds that surrounded it. Dr. Kira Voss stood at the observation deck, watching the beautiful swirls of purple and gold gases dance around distant stars. She was a tall woman, with short brown hair and bright green eyes that sparkled with curiosity about everything the universe had to offer. The Stellar Dawn was not a military vessel. It carried no weapons, no armor plating, and no shields designed for war. Instead, it was filled with laboratories, research equipment, and peaceful beings from across the galaxy who shared a love of discovery and knowledge. The ship's mission was simple but important: to study new forms of life and help different species understand each other better. Captain Zephyr approached Dr. Voss with graceful, silent steps. He was a member of the Avian race, humanoid beings, with beautiful feathered wings that folded against their backs and large golden eyes that could see far into space. His species had evolved on a world of floating islands, and they were the best navigators in the known galaxy. The Aviarans never fought wars because they believed violence poisoned the mind and made it impossible to see the true beauty of the cosmos. Dr. Voss, we have completed our scan of the third planet in this system, Captain Zephyr said in his musical voice. The preliminary results are fascinating. We have detected at least 12 new species of crystalline life forms that appear to use starlight as their primary energy source. Dr. Voss smiled with excitement. This was exactly the kind of discovery that made all the long months traveling between star systems worthwhile. That's incredible, Captain. How long until we can get close enough for detailed study? 3 days at our current speed, Captain Zephyr replied. Engineer Thex says the solar collectors need recalibration after our last jump through hyperspace, so we cannot push the engines too hard right now. Engineer Vex was perhaps the most unusual member of their crew. She belonged to a species called the Resonance, beings made entirely of living crystal, who communicated through musical tones and vibrations. Vex could interface directly with the ship's computer systems, making her the most efficient engineer in the sector. Her crystalline body glowed with soft blue light that changed color based on her emotions and the work she was doing. Dr. Voss nodded and was about to respond when the ship's emergency alarm began blaring. The peaceful atmosphere of the research vessel was suddenly shattered by flashing red lights and the urgent sound that meant immediate danger. Both Dr. Voss and Captain Zephyr rushed to the bridge, their hearts pounding with worry. The bridge of the Stellar Dawn was designed for comfort and efficiency rather than combat. Soft lighting, curved surfaces, and large viewing screens created an environment where beings from different worlds could work together easily. But now the usual calm was replaced by chaos as crew members scrambled to understand what was happening. Communications. Officer Relay, a member of the aquatic Depsinger race, was working frantically at his station. His large webbed hands moved across holographic controls while his gill slits fluttered with stress. The Depsingers came from ocean worlds and were known throughout the galaxy for their ability to detect the smallest changes in electromagnetic fields and radio waves. Captain, I am detecting multiple ships approaching our position at high speed, Relay reported, his voice carrying the liquid quality that all Depsingers possessed. Their energy signatures indicate heavy weapons and military-grade shields. These are not research vessels or traders. Captain Zephyr's golden eyes grew wide with concern. How many ships, and how long until they reach us? 7 vessels, arriving in approximately 40 minutes, Relay answered. Captain, I am also detecting something else. These ships are broadcasting identification codes that match known pirate organizations. Specifically, they appear to be part of the Void Syndicate. Dr. Voss felt her blood turn cold at the mention of that name. The Void Syndicate was the most feared criminal organization in 3 galactic sectors. They attacked peaceful research stations, enslaved entire colonies, and destroyed anything that stood in their way. Like other pirate groups that simply wanted to steal cargo, the Void Syndicate seemed to enjoy causing pain and fear. Can we outrun them? Dr. Voss asked, though she already suspected the answer. Engineer Thex's crystalline form appeared on the bridge, her blue glow now flickering, with orange streaks of anxiety. When she spoke, her words came as harmonic tones that the universal translator converted into standard galactic language. Negative. Our research vessel was not designed for speed. The pirates will intercept us long before we can reach the nearest inhabited system. Captain Zephyr considered their options carefully. The aviarans were natural problem solvers, always looking for peaceful solutions to difficult situations. What about diplomatic contact? Perhaps we can negotiate with them. Communications Officer Relay tried to establish contact with the approaching ships, but the response they received made everyone on the bridge feel hopeless. The main viewing screen filled with the hideous face of a being that could only be described as pure evil. Warlord Grimjaw was a member of the carnivorous species, creatures that looked like a nightmare combination of shark and wolf. Scarred face was filled with rows of razor-sharp teeth, and his small, cruel eyes showed no mercy or compassion. "Little research ship," Warlord Grimjaw said with a voice like grinding metal. "You have entered territory claimed by the Void Syndicate. Your vessel, your crew, and everything you carry now belongs to us. Prepare to be boarded. Anyone who resists will be eaten alive." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Dr. Voss looked around at her crew, peaceful, beings who had dedicated their lives to learning and discovery. None of them were fighters. None of them carried weapons. They were scholars, scientists, and explorers who believed that knowledge and understanding could solve any problem. But now they faced an enemy that respected neither knowledge nor life. "There must be something we can do," Dr. Voss said desperately. "We cannot let them capture the research data."
Ow.
3 years of work studying peaceful species and their cultures. If the Void Syndicate gets their hands on it, they could use it to attack defenseless worlds. Engineer Thex's crystal body suddenly brightened with an idea. "Dr. Voss, there may be one option." While reviewing the ship's historical archives, I discovered something unusual in the oldest computer files. There appears to be an ancient emergency system that was installed on this vessel over 400 years ago. "What kind of emergency system?" Captain Zephyr asked. Thex accessed the ship's computer, and information began flowing across the bridge screens. "It is called the Terran Guardian Protocol," according to these files. It was installed by something called the Human Colonial Defense Force during the early days of galactic expansion. The system includes a quantum beacon that can send distress signals across vast distances instantly. Dr. Voss frowned as she studied the information. But humans withdrew from galactic affairs centuries ago. Everyone knows the stories. They helped establish the peaceful trade networks and then simply vanished into the outer regions of space. Most people think they went extinct or found another galaxy to explore. The legends say they promised to return if peaceful species ever faced extinction, Captain Zephyr added thoughtfully. But those are just old stories that parents tell their children. Engineer Thex's crystal form pulsed with urgent light. The files indicate that the beacon has remained active all these years, waiting for someone to send a distress call. The energy requirements are enormous. It would drain our power cells completely, but it might be our only hope. Through the bridge windows, they could see tiny points of light growing larger as the Void Syndicate ships approached. Warlord Grimjaw's vessels were painted black and red, covered with spikes and weapons that had been torn from destroyed victims. They moved through space like hungry predators closing in on helpless prey. Dr. Voss made her decision quickly. Activate the beacon. Even if the humans are gone, even if no one answers, we have to try. We cannot let the Void Syndicate capture our research or harm innocent worlds. Engineer Thex worked rapidly, her crystalline hands interfacing directly with the ship's most ancient systems. Deep in the vessel's core, machinery that had not been used for 4 centuries slowly came to life. Power flowed through circuits that had been waiting patiently for this moment, and quantum transmitters that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously began to charge. "The beacon is charging," Thex reported. Full activation in 60 seconds. But Doctor, once I send the signal, our ship will lose all power. We will be completely defenseless. Communications Officer Relay looked up from his station with fear in his large eyes. The pirate ships have increased speed. They'll reach us in 20 minutes. Dr. Voss watched the approaching danger and thought about all the peaceful species they had studied during their journey. She remembered the crystal gardens of Resonance Prime, where Thex's people grew beautiful formations that sang in harmony. With the solar winds, she thought of the floating cities of the Aviaran homeworld, where Captain Zephyr's family built homes among the clouds. She pictured the deep ocean cities of the Depth Singers, where Relay's people composed symphonies from. The sounds of whale-like creatures that swam between the stars. All of these beautiful, peaceful civilizations depended on the promise that someone would protect them from those who sought to destroy rather than create. The old stories spoke of humans as the guardians of the innocent, the ones who stood between evil and those too gentle to fight. If there was even the smallest chance that those stories were true, Dr. Voss had to take it. Send the signal, she ordered. Engineer Thex activated the ancient beacon. Energy that had been stored for 400 years flowed through quantum. Transmitters that existed outside normal space and time. The message was simple but desperate. Peaceful research vessel under attack by hostile forces. Coordinates attached. Request immediate assistance under the Terran Guardian Protocol. The signal shot out from the stellar dawn faster than light itself could travel. It pierced through dimensions that existed between reality and possibility, reaching into the deepest, darkest regions of space, where something had been waiting patiently for exactly this call. As the beacon sent its message, all the lights on the research vessel went out. The engines stopped humming, the life support system switched to emergency power, and the bridge was lit only by the glow from Engineer Thex's crystalline body. They had done everything they could. Now they could only wait and hope that someone, somewhere, had heard their cry for help. The pirate ships were getting closer, their weapons charging for the attack that would end the lives of everyone aboard. The peaceful research vessel. Warlord Grimjaw's cruel laughter echoed through space as he prepared to claim another victory for the Void Syndicate. But far beyond the edge of known space, in regions where no star charts had ever been drawn, ancient machines began to respond to the distress call. Warning lights that had been dark for centuries suddenly blazed to life. Computer systems that had been waiting in silent standby mode activated with a sound like thunder rolling across the void. And in 7 massive ships that floated in the darkness between galaxies, human beings began to wake up from the longest sleep in history. The awakening protocol in the vast emptiness between galaxies, where no light from any star could reach. 7 enormous shapes had been floating in perfect silence for over 400 years. These were not ordinary spaceships. Each vessel was larger than most space stations, built with technology that surpassed anything the current galaxy had ever seen. They were painted in deep black that made them almost invisible against the cosmic void, and their surfaces were covered with weapons and sensors that could detect threats from impossible distances. The largest of these ships was called the Eternal Vigil, deep within its armored hull, in a chamber protected by multiple layers of security. Fleet Admiral Marcus Chen began the slow process of waking up from cryogenic sleep. The preservation systems that had kept him alive for centuries gradually warmed his body back to normal temperature while medical scanners checked every aspect of his health. Admiral Chen was 55 years old when he had entered the sleep pods, though his body had not aged a single day during the long wait. He was a tall man with graying hair and sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. Scars on his hands and arms told the story of a lifetime spent protecting others, and the calm expression on his face showed the wisdom that came from making difficult decisions in impossible situations. As consciousness returned to him, Admiral Chen remembered why he was here. 400 years ago, humanity had made a promise to the peaceful species of the galaxy. They would withdraw from galactic politics, allowing other civilizations to grow and develop without human interference. But they would also maintain a hidden fleet in the deep void, ready to respond if gentle species faced extinction from forces they could not fight alone. The wake-up process was not comfortable. Admiral Chen's muscles ached from centuries of disuse, and his throat felt dry as ancient dust. But his mind was sharp and focused as he sat up in the cryogenic pod and looked around the revival chamber. One by one, other pods were opening as his command crew returned to the land of the living. Commander Sarah Reeves was the first to join him. She had been his second in command for 20 years before they entered sleep, and she was the finest tactical officer in the human fleet. Her short red hair was now messy from the cryogenic process, but her green eyes were already alert and analyzing their situation. "Admiral status report," she said as soon as she could speak clearly. "Unknown at this time," Commander Admiral Chen replied, helping her stand as her legs remembered how to support her weight. "The automated systems woke us, which means we received a genuine distress call under the Guardian Protocol." Lieutenant Jake Morrison opened his pod next. He was young for his rank, only 30 when they had entered sleep, but he was the most skilled pilot humanity had ever produced. Jake could fly anything with engines, and his reflexes were so fast that other pilots joked he could dodge laser beams. His blonde hair and easy smile made him look like someone who never worried about anything. But his record showed he had never lost a single ship under his protection. "Admiral, how long were we out?" Jake asked, stretching muscles that had not moved for centuries. "Computer, current date, and mission status." Admiral Chen commanded. The ship's artificial intelligence responded immediately with a voice that had been programmed to sound calm and professional. "Current date, Galactic Standard 2847 3.15. Duration of sleep cycle 412 years, 7 months, 18 days. Mission status, active distress call received under Terran Guardian Protocol. Signal origin, research vessel Stellar Dawn and Dara Nebula. Coordinates 847.332, 991. Commander Reeves was already moving to the nearest computer terminal, her tactical training taking over despite the weakness in her legs. "What kind of threat are they facing?" "Analyzing," the computer replied. "Signal indicates attack by organization identified as Void Syndicate. Multiple hostile vessels approaching research ship with intent to capture crew and cargo. Research vessel has no defensive capabilities." Admiral Chen felt the familiar weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. For over 4 centuries, he had been prepared for this moment. The peaceful species of the galaxy had finally encountered a threat they could not handle alone, and humanity's promise was being called upon. "Computer status of all Guardian fleet vessels," he ordered. "All 7 ships are fully operational. Crews are reviving on schedule. Weapons and defensive systems are at maximum capacity. Fleet ready for immediate deployment." Admiral Chen nodded with satisfaction. Humanity had built these ships to last, and they had maintained themselves perfectly during the long wait. Each vessel was armed with weapons that could crack planets in half, but they were also equipped with precision tools that could disable enemy ships without harming their crews. The humans had not returned to Galaxy to conquer or destroy. They had returned to protect. As Admiral Chen and his command crew made their way to the bridge of the Eternal Vigil, similar scenes were playing out on the other 6 ships of the Guardian fleet. Thousands of human men and women were waking up from their centuries-long sleep, checking their equipment, and preparing to do what they had trained their entire lives to do: stand between the innocent and those who would harm them. The Bridge of the Eternal Vigil was a masterpiece of human engineering. Holographic displays showed every detail of the surrounding space, while computer systems processed information faster than any biological mind could follow. The captain's chair sat at the center of it all, positioned so the fleet admiral could see everything happening around him, while making the split-second decisions that would determine life or death for entire worlds. Admiral Chen took his position in the command chair while his crew ran through their activation procedures. Even after 400 years, every system responded perfectly. The ship's engines hummed with power that could move them across the galaxy in hours. The weapons charged with energy drawn from miniature stars. The shields activated with technology that could turn aside any attack. "Admiral, all ships report ready for action," Commander Reeves announced from her tactical station. Morrison, set course for the Andara Nebula. Maximum speed, Admiral Chen ordered. We have innocent people who need our help. The 7 ships of the Guardian fleet turned toward their destination and engaged their hyperspace engines. Space itself seemed to bend around them as they shot forward at speeds that made light seem slow. They traveled through dimensions that existed between reality and possibility, crossing distances that would take normal ships months to cover. As they flew through hyperspace, Admiral Chen used the time to study everything the ship's computers could tell him about the current state of the galaxy. Much had changed during humanity's absence. A new species had achieved spaceflight, old enemies had become friends, and peaceful civilizations had spread to thousands of worlds. But one thing had not changed. There were still those who chose to hurt others instead of building something beautiful. Admiral, we're receiving more information about this Void Syndicate, Commander Reeves reported. They appear to be a coalition of the most violent species in the galaxy. They attack research stations, enslave peaceful colonies, and destroy anything that stands in their way. The Galactic authorities have been unable to stop them because they move too quickly and strike without warning. Admiral Chen studied the files about Warlord Grimjoe and his fleet of predators. These were beings who had chosen evil not because they had to, but because they enjoyed causing pain. They were exactly the kind of threat the Guardian Protocol had been designed to handle. How long until we reach the research vessel? Admiral Chen asked. Lieutenant Morrison checked his navigation displays. 15 minutes at current speed? Admiral, but sir, we might already be too late. Long-range sensors show the pirate ships have already reached their target. Admiral Chen's expression became grim but determined. Then we'll have to make sure we arrive in time to matter. All ships prepare for immediate combat upon arrival. Remember, our mission is to protect the innocent, not to seek revenge. Disable the enemy vessels if possible, but do not hesitate to use lethal force if they threaten civilian lives. The Stellar Dawn was in terrible trouble. The 7 pirate ships of the Void Syndicate had surrounded the defenseless research vessel like sharks circling wounded prey. Warlord Grimjaw's flagship, a massive destroyer covered in spikes and weapon batteries, had positioned itself directly in front of the peaceful ship's bridge. Dr. Voss and her crew huddled on their darkened bridge, watching helplessly as the pirates prepared to board their vessel. The ancient beacon had drained all their power, leaving them floating dead in space. Engineer Thex's crystalline body provided the only light, her glow flickering with fear and desperation. Doctor, they are attaching boarding tubes to our hull, Captain Zephyr reported, his musical voice filled with sadness. In a few minutes, they will be inside our ship. Dr. Voss clutched the research data that represented 3 years of work. Studying peaceful species, the Void Syndicate captured this information. They could use it to attack defenseless worlds that had trusted the researchers with their secrets. She would destroy it before letting that happen. Suddenly, Communications Officer Relay's equipment sparked to life with emergency power. Doctor, I am detecting something impossible. 7 massive objects are approaching our position at incredible speed. More pirates? Captain Zephyr asked with despair. Negative, Relay replied, his webbed hands working frantically over his controls. These energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases. The ships are enormous, and they are moving faster than anything should be able to travel. Through the bridge windows, they could see Warlord Grimjaw's crews preparing to cut through. Their hull with industrial lasers. The pirates were so confident in their victory that they had not even bothered to keep watch for other ships. They were about to learn that overconfidence was a deadly mistake. Space around the Stellar Dawn suddenly filled with brilliant light as 7 massive shapes dropped out of hyperspace. The Guardian fleet ships materialized like ghosts, becoming solid. Their black hulls barely visible against the darkness until running lights activated along their edges. Each ship was 3 times larger than Warlord Grimjaw's flagship and covered with weapons that hummed with barely contained power. On the bridge of the Eternal Vigil, Admiral Chen looked at the tactical display showing the pirate ships surrounding the research vessel. His jaw tightened with anger as he saw the boarding tubes already attached to the peaceful ship's hull. All Guardian ships, this is Admiral Chen, he broadcast to his fleet. Defensive formation around the research vessel. Show these pirates. What happens when they threaten the innocent under our protection? The 7 human ships moved with precision that seemed impossible for vessels so large. They flowed through space like dancers performing a deadly ballet, positioning themselves between the pirates and their victim, while targeting systems locked onto every enemy weapon. Warlord Grimjaw stared at his sensor displays in confusion and growing fear. "What are those ships? Where did they come from?"
"Unknown, sir,"
his weapons officer replied with a voice that shook with terror. "But their energy signatures are off. The scale. Those are the most powerful vessels I have ever seen." Admiral Chen opened a communication channel that reached every ship in the area. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone who had spent a lifetime defending others from those who would do them harm. "Void Syndicate vessels. This is Fleet Admiral Marcus Chen of the Human Guardian Fleet. You are attacking a peaceful research vessel under the protection of the Terran Defense Accords. Withdraw immediately and release your prisoners, or face the consequences." The pirates were stunned into silence. Humans were supposed to be legends, stories told to frighten children or comfort the weak. But here were 7 impossibly advanced warships announcing themselves as the protectors of the innocent. Warlord Grimjaw recovered first, his cruel nature, overcoming his fear. "Humans. Impossible. You are myths, stories, lies told by weak species. I am Warlord Grimjaw of the Void Syndicate, and I fear no one." Admiral Chen's response was calm, but filled with deadly promise. "Then you will learn to fear us. All Guardian ships, commence protective action. Show them why the peaceful species still tell stories about humanity." The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had seen for centuries. The 7 ships of the Human Guardian Fleet moved with a precision and power that defied belief. Each vessel was a masterpiece of engineering, armed with weapons that could destroy entire star systems, but operated by crews who chose to use minimal force whenever possible. Admiral Chen watched from the bridge of the Eternal Vigil as his fleet demonstrated why humanity had once been known as the protectors of the innocent. The human ships did not fire randomly or seek to obliterate their enemies. Instead, they moved like skilled surgeons, targeting specific systems on the pirate vessels with weapons that could cut through the strongest armor with pinpoint accuracy. Lieutenant Jake Morrison launched his fighter squadron from the Eternal Vigil's hangar bay. The human fighters were sleek, silver craft that moved through space like living creatures. Jake led 12 of the most skilled pilots in human history, each one capable of outflying entire enemy squadrons single-handedly. "Guardian Squadron, this is Guardian 1, Jake broadcast to his pilots. "Remember the rules of engagement? Disable their weapons and engines, but avoid casualties if possible. These pirates chose their path, but that doesn't mean they deserve to die." The Void Syndicate had fighter craft of their own, savage-looking vessels armed with weapons designed to cause maximum destruction. But when they tried to engage the human fighters, something extraordinary happened. The human pilots moved so quickly and precisely that they seemed to exist in multiple places at once. They dodged every attack while systematically destroying the pirate fighters' weapon systems. Jake's fighter danced between 3 enemy craft, his weapons firing with surgical precision. Each shot disabled a weapon or engine without harming the pilot inside. Within minutes, the entire pirate fighter force was floating helplessly in space, their ships intact but completely unable to fight. "Guardian 1 to Admiral Chen," Jake reported. "Enemy fighters neutralized. No casualties on either side." On the main battlefront, the larger human ships were demonstrating their own overwhelming superiority. The Stellar Hammer targeted Warlord Grimjaw's flagship with a weapon that used controlled gravity to tear apart specific systems. The massive pirate destroyer's weapons were ripped away from its hull piece by piece. Leaving the rest of the ship undamaged, Commander Sarah Reeves coordinated the attack from her tactical station with the skill of someone who had spent decades perfecting the art of protective warfare. "Void Stalker is moving to flank us," she reported to Admiral Chen. "Recommend we use the quantum disruptors to disable their engines." "Proved," Admiral Chen replied. "But remember, we're here to protect, not to destroy. These pirates have families somewhere, even if they've chosen the wrong path. The Eternal Vigil fired a beam of energy so precisely controlled that it passed through the pirate ship's armor without harming a single crew member, while completely melting the engines into useless metal. The pirate vessel found itself suddenly unable to move, floating helplessly as the human fleet continued their systematic dismantling of the Void Syndicate's forces. Warlord Grimjoe watched in horror as his mighty fleet was taken apart piece by piece. Ships that had terrorized the galaxy for decades were being reduced to harmless hulks in a matter of minutes. The humans fought with a combination of overwhelming technological superiority and tactical brilliance that made resistance seem pointless. "Sir, all our weapons are gone," his terrified weapons officer reported. "The humans are cutting them away without even scratching our hull. It's like they know exactly where every system is located." "How is that possible?" Warlord Grimjaw demanded. "Admiral." Chen answered that question by opening a communication channel to the pirate flagship. "Warlord Grimjaw, humanity has been watching the galaxy for 4 centuries. We know the design of every ship, the location of every system, and the weakness of every weapon. We could destroy your entire fleet in seconds, but we choose not to. Surrender now, and your crews will be treated with mercy." The demonstration continued for 20 more minutes, but the outcome was never in doubt. One by one, the pirate ships lost their ability to fight, move, or even maintain life support. But not a single pirate died. The human fleet had disabled 7 warships and dozens of fighters without causing a single casualty. Finally, Warlord Grimjaw's pride crumbled in the face of absolute defeat. I surrender," he transmitted, his voice no longer filled with arrogance, but with the fear of someone who had finally met a force greater than his own cruelty. "Wise choice," Admiral Chen replied. "All Void Syndicate vessels, power down your remaining systems, and prepare to be boarded. You will be processed according to Galactic law and given the chance to reform your ways." As the pirate fleet surrendered, the Eternal Vigil moved carefully toward the damaged research vessel Stellar Dawn. The human ship's advanced sensors showed that the peaceful crew was still alive, but their ship was badly damaged from the pirate attack. "Admiral, the research vessel's life support is failing," Commander Reeves reported. "They need immediate assistance." "Launch rescue shuttles," Admiral Chen ordered. "Full medical team and emergency repair crew. And have our diplomatic team prepare for first contact protocols. These people have never seen humans before." A sleek human shuttle detached from the Eternal Vigil and approached the Stellar Dawn with gentle precision. The shuttle was painted in peaceful white and blue colors, showing clearly that it came in friendship rather than conquest. Aboard the shuttle, Admiral Chen sat with his diplomatic team, preparing to meet the species that had called for humanity's help. Dr. Kira, Voss and her crew watched in amazement as the human shuttle docked with their ship. After 400 years of absence, humanity had returned to the galaxy, and they had come as protectors rather than conquerors. The airlock opened with a soft hiss, and Admiral Chen stepped through, followed by his diplomatic team. The humans looked surprisingly ordinary to the alien crew. Tall, armed, 2-legged beings with faces that showed intelligence and compassion. But there was something else about them that made everyone in the room feel both safe and awed. "Dr. Voss," Admiral Chen said, approaching the human scientist with his hand extended in the ancient gesture of friendship. "I am Fleet Admiral Marcus Chen of the Human Guardian Fleet. We received your distress call and came as quickly as we could." "Doctor?" Voss took his hand, surprised by how warm and strong it felt. "Admiral Chen, I cannot believe you're real. We thought humans were legends, stories told to comfort the weak." Admiral Chen smiled, and some of the dangerous feeling around him softened. "We've been watching, Dr. Voss. We never left the galaxy completely. We simply stepped back to let other species find their own paths to peace and prosperity." Captain Zephyr approached with his graceful musical movements. "Admiral, what we witnessed today changes everything we thought we knew about the galaxy. Your fleet defeated the Void Syndicate without killing anyone. How is such precision possible?" 400 years of preparation," Admiral Chen replied. "We knew that someday peaceful species would face a threat they couldn't handle alone. We used that time to develop technology and tactics that would allow us to protect the innocent without becoming the monsters we fought against. Engineer. Dex's crystalline form glowed with curiosity and hope. Admiral Chen, does this mean humanity will return to galactic civilization? Will you help us build a better future? Admiral Chen considered the question carefully. Humanity will maintain a presence in the galaxy, but we won't interfere with the natural development of other species. We'll watch from the shadows, ready to act when evil threatens the innocent. But the future of the galaxy must be built by all species working together, not by human dominance. Dr. Voss gestured to the research data she had protected during the attack. Admiral, we've spent 3 years studying peaceful species and their cultures. This information could help build better relationships between different civilizations. Would humanity be willing to share knowledge with us? Admiral Chen examined the research files with interest. Dr. Voss, this is exactly the kind of work that gives us hope for the galaxy's future. Yes, humanity would be honored to share our knowledge with peaceful species who use it to build rather than destroy. Ambassador Keth, one of Admiral Chen's diplomatic team members, stepped forward. She was a woman with silver hair and kind eyes who had spent her career building bridges between different cultures. Dr. Voss, we would like to propose updating the Guardian Protocol for the modern galaxy. The original accords were signed 400 years ago when the political situation was very different. Communications Officer Relay looked up from his equipment with excitement in his large eyes. Admiral, the news of your return is already spreading across the galaxy. Peaceful species everywhere are celebrating, knowing that the Guardians of Legend have returned. Admiral Chen nodded thoughtfully. That brings both opportunities and responsibilities. We must be careful not to make peaceful species dependent on human protection. The goal is to create a galaxy where such protection is rarely needed. Over the following hours, human repair teams worked alongside the crew of the Stellar Dawn to fix the damage caused by the pirate attack. The humans brought technology that could rebuild damaged systems in minutes rather than weeks. But they also taught the alien crew how to maintain and improve their own equipment. Lieutenant Morrison worked with Captain Zephyr to install new navigation systems that would help the research vessel avoid dangerous areas. Captain, these sensors can detect hostile ships from much greater distances, Jake explained. But more importantly, they're connected to the Guardian network. If you ever face a threat you can't handle, help will come. Engineer Thex was fascinated by the human technology and how it integrated with her crystalline abilities. The efficiency is remarkable, she observed to the human engineers. Your systems are designed to work with any species' natural abilities rather than replacing them. Meanwhile, Admiral Chen met with representatives from other peaceful species who had heard about the Guardian fleet's return. The holographic communication system on the Eternal Vigil allowed him to speak with leaders from dozens of worlds simultaneously. Admiral Chen, said Chancellor Mira of the Botanical Collective, a species of plant-like beings who grew starships from living trees. Your return gives us hope that we can continue our peaceful ways without fear of extinction. That is our goal, Chancellor. Admiral Chen replied. But remember that true peace comes from strength and unity among peaceful species, not just from having powerful protectors. Dr. Alana Koss, of the Crystal Singers, beings who communicated through resonant frequencies, added her voice to the conversation. Admiral, how can we contact you if other threats arise? The old beacon system appears to work, but surely there are better methods now. Admiral Chen smiled. We're establishing Guardian stations throughout the galaxy, small, automated facilities that can call for help instantly. But more importantly, we're going to help peaceful species develop their own defensive capabilities. Not weapons of war, but tools for protection and cooperation. The meeting continued for several hours as representatives from peaceful civilizations discussed how to build a better future. The humans offered technology, knowledge, and protection. But they also emphasized that each species must remain responsible for their own development and choices. As the diplomatic sessions concluded, Admiral Chen returned to the Stellar Dawn to bid farewell to Dr. Voss and her crew. The research vessel had been fully repaired and upgraded with new systems that would help them continue their important work. Dr. Voss, Your courage in activating the Guardian Beacon has reminded the galaxy that humanity never abandoned our promise to protect the innocent, Admiral Chen said. Your research will help build bridges between species and create the understanding needed for lasting peace. Dr. Voss felt tears forming in her eyes. Admiral, what you've done today, saving us, defeating the pirates without unnecessary violence, offering to help build a better future, this is why the stories about humanity never died. Even when people thought you were myths, they held onto the hope that someone somewhere was watching over the innocent. Captain Zephyr stepped forward with a formal bow. Admiral Chen, the Aviarn people will spread word of humanity's return to every corner of the galaxy. The age of fear is ending, and the age of cooperation can begin. Engineer Thex's crystalline form glowed with warm, grateful light. Admiral, your people have shown us that advanced technology can be used to heal rather than harm, to protect rather than conquer. This is a lesson the galaxy needed to learn. Admiral Chen clasped Dr. Voss's hand one final time. Remember, the future of the galaxy depends on species like yours, peaceful beings who choose to build, explore, and understand rather than destroy. Humanity will watch and protect, but you must lead the way to a better tomorrow as a human. Shuttle returned to the Eternal Vigil. The Guardian fleet prepared to return to their hidden bases in the void between galaxies. But this time, they would not sleep for centuries. The galaxy had changed, and humanity's role as protectors required active vigilance rather than patient waiting. The 7 massive ships activated their hyperspace engines and began to fade from normal space. But before they disappeared completely, Admiral Chen sent one final message that was broadcast to every peaceful species in the galaxy. To all beings who choose creation over destruction, cooperation over conquest, and understanding over ignorance, know that you are not alone. Humanity has returned to stand with you against the darkness. But remember that true peace comes not from having powerful protectors, but from building a civilization where protection is rarely needed. Work together, support each other, and never forget that the greatest strength comes from unity among those who choose to do good. The Guardian fleet vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind a galaxy forever changed. The Void Syndicate had been defeated, their ships impounded, and their crews given the chance to reform. Peaceful species across thousands of worlds celebrated the return of their legendary protectors. But more importantly, the return of humanity had reminded the galaxy that good could triumph over evil, that the innocent would always have defenders, and that somewhere in the vast darkness of space someone was always watching to ensure that peace and justice would prevail. Dr. Voss and her crew continued their research mission, but now they carried something more precious than scientific data. They carried the knowledge that humanity had kept its ancient promise and that the age of terror was ending. As the stellar dawn resumed its journey through the Indara Nebula, Communications Officer Relay detected something new on his instruments. Dr. Voss, I'm picking up transmissions from dozens of species. They're all talking about the Guardian fleet's return and discussing plans for greater cooperation and mutual defense. Dr. Voss smiled as she looked out at the beautiful cosmic clouds surrounding their ship. The galaxy was waking up to new possibilities, new hopes, and new dreams of what peaceful species could accomplish when they worked together under the protection of those who had chosen to be guardians rather than conquerors. The age of humanity's return had begun, and with it came the promise of a better future for all who chose the path of peace.